Kim Fox is here. One of the things I love about you, Kim, is the fact that we see you out and about in the city. You know what I mean? I think it's important for our city officials to be tangible. I just literally ran into you last week when the NFL kickoff was taking place down in Grant Park, and it's always good to see you. Always have a smile on your face and a positive word. So number one, that's great, and we appreciate that about you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be around our people.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it, man. You know, we're talking about the new law that's going to go into place, the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, and we know that you're very active in making sure that translates into some positive things for our community as well.
That's right. So as marijuana becomes legal in Illinois January 1st, January 1st. I have to keep reminding folks of that because you'll smell things in the air and you're like, it's still September. We wanted to make sure that now as marijuana becomes legal and it is going to be a billion-dollar industry, that the people who have been impacted by the war on drugs were able to, one, get their lives back. And so our office pledged that we would be working to vacate the convictions of those who were convicted of marijuana possession as far back as we can go, so decades old. So we're looking at the potential of, hundreds of thousands of records that are impacted overall, and we're going to start with tens of thousands of records here in Cook County to vacate the record, which means it's as though the conviction never happened.
Well, what about the people that are currently might be in jail right now? Will they get out?
Depending on if it falls under those parameters, yes. And so we're actively working with this partner called Code for America, who will identify all of those folks, generate the paperwork and documentation for us. No one has to pay anything. So if you usually get a record expunged, you have to pay a fee, you have to pay something, you have to show up someplace. You don't have to do anything.
If I'm somebody who has a family member or somebody that's been affected by marijuana and arrested and doing time and things of that nature, do I have to wait for Cook County to, let me know what's going on? Or can I reach out and say, hey, my cousin so-and-so is locked up. Will this help them get out?
Yeah, we got a lot of people calling on their cousins' behalf. We got a lot of cousins. They can call. What I'm telling people is, give us a few months because no one has to do anything. You don't have to actively do anything. What we're going to be doing and where we'll need all of you is alerting people that it's coming, that it's happening. Because you get a letter in the mail, Leon, saying, hey, the state's attorney says your record is gone. My guess is you might not believe that.
No, I wouldn't.
Till I see it, I can see you in the
Chicago, we got Kim Fox hanging out with us in the studio. More with Kim Fox coming up. GCI decides #1 for hip hop and R&B. The morning show. Leon Rogers, Kendra G, myself, Kyle. We're back hanging out with Kim Fox in the studio, talking about the legalization of marijuana and how it's going to change things in Chicago.
So January 1st, when it does become legal, now how does that work? Can you still buy weed from your weed man? You got to go to Target now to get weed. Like, how does it work when it's legal? Like, I'm not sure. Like, where do you go to get the legal weed beginning January 1st?
So there, right now, is a process where people are getting licenses, whether to be a dispensary, whether to be a cultivator. So there will be places that pop up. Like we saw the hookah lounges back in a few years ago starting to pop up. You'll start to see that. It will be legal to possess 30 grams or less, right? And so I don't know how much, your folks carry on them when they're conducting a transaction.
I'm talking about my cousin.
You're
talking about my cousin.
So they can possess that amount. And we want to make sure that communities that have been impacted by over incarceration related to these arrests are able to participate.
And I think that's my biggest question that I have. They're going to let us in? Because I know how that goes sometimes, and I know a couple of guys who've been studying and doing their research preparing for this to happen, but they say some of the fees that you have to pay in order to even get a license are absolutely ridiculous.
That's right. And they've created what they've called the justice, equity, and opportunity provisions of this, where they give certain percentage points to people who come from impacted communities. So African American communities on the south and west sides, that you have a higher opportunity to get into the game if you are incorporating people who have been impacted.
I love it.
Could you real quick speak to the whole thing about, although it may be legal, there's still some laws that are in place. Like, yes, it's legal to buy alcohol, but you can't be behind the wheel drunk off alcohol. So how does that translate to marijuana?
Kyle, that's exactly the same analogy you should use issues with this, that you cannot be under the influence and drive. And so, the same things that you do, children can't use marijuana legally. You have to be 21 and older.
21 is the age.
21 is the age. Also, you have to know your provisions of where you live. And landlords may say, just like we have smoke-free places, you cannot smoke here. Employers, even though it will be legal, can still say, we want this to be a place where you cannot be under the influence. So they may still be able to test you. So what I would say to folks is, check with your employers, check with your landlords, and follow the law.
Okay.
So, Kim, before you go, because it's our first time really having you in the studio since all that's happened this year, and everybody in Chicago knows, if you watch the news, listen to the show, your job had a big job this year.
Yeah.
I know you're probably over the name Jussie Smollett, but I just want to know, I think I read there was an investigation going on. Yeah. Is that true, or are we past the Jussie Smollett? What's happening with that right now?
Jussie Smollett.
Oh, according to Dave Chappelle. Did you watch that?
I did watch it. I found the last 12 minutes to be quite humorous. There is Dan Webb has been appointed to investigate our office's handling of the case. We have said from the very beginning that we are open and transparent to a non-political view of this. But what I've said before this even started, when we've been on here before, our office is committed to fighting violent crime. And for people who are accused of non-violent offenses without a criminal background, our default has been, if we can deal with that outside of the criminal justice system, that's what we're going to do. That when we have a city that is battling gun violence at the rate that we're seeing it, when we have a city that's dealing, with young people scared to go outside, our resources and attention should be focused on that. And so we'll take the investigation as it comes. We will fully cooperate, but I stand by our office's position that people with nonviolent offenses without a criminal background should default not be in our justice system.
Well said.
And if you need help, we got you back.
I mean, my law partner, I've been waiting for him to start. He's so busy now.
Yeah, because I've really been researching this marijuana. I want to make sure I got all the bases covered.
Yes.
All right, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. If people want to find out more about the Clear My Record program, where can they go?
They can go to our website, Cook County State's Attorney, all one word, .org.
All right,
Yes.
thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Looking beautiful. Got that good hair.